Big news recently, obviously Saquon Barkley, the latest running back to be franchise tagged, or at least, he and Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard signed his franchise tag. He's going to play for the Cowboys. But Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley may not show up to training camp. We'll see. And so a lot of the top running backs, Barkley, Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, and Christian McCaffrey, at least those guys were on a Zoom, Rob, on Sunday, yesterday. And they discussed, just the fact that obviously they believe running backs are underpaid and undervalued. And so they discussed that. But Nick Chubb came away thinking there's very little they can do. Here he is.
Well, I mean, right now it's just talk. There's really nothing we can do. We're kind of handcuffed with the situation. But I mean, I felt what I took from it. McCaffrey and Derrick Henry and Saquon had a lot of good points. But the biggest thing is that we're in a position that our production hurts us the most. If we go out there and run for 2,000 yards with so many carries, the next year they're going to say, you're probably worn down. That's the biggest thing that I took from it. It's just, it's tough. It hurts us just to go out there and do good. It hurts us at the end of the day.
Nick Chubb, hello. Is this on? You're not hamstrung. What do you mean you can't do anything? Yes, you guys can do something. Stand together. Be united. Push back. You guys all want. You ever hear of the blue flu, Chris? You ever hear of the blue flu?
No.
That's what the cops do. When they're not happy with their contract, they all call in sick on the same day. It's called the blue flu. How about the running back flu? Nick Chubb. How about week 1, all the running backs decide they got a pulled hammy? How are they going to tell you whether or not you do or not? And you all of you guys sit out game 1 to let them know that we're not going to accept this. That's what you have to do. Stop the show. Hello? You want to get people's attention? Stop the show. Stop the money flow. Nick Chubb, this is why you guys are in this situation. They have you bamboozled into thinking you have no leverage, you can't do anything. When people feel like they're oppressed or not given the right opportunity, that's how unions got started. They all work for the same companies, Chris. And you know what? The owners didn't do right by them. They formed together and they stopped working. And guess what? Unions were formed and better working conditions were made for people. I'm not saying that they're all perfect, because God knows the NFL Players Association is garbage. And I wish was the union on the call, Chris? Or maybe they were hiding because they set these guys up to where they can't do it. You know what I mean? Like they're in a trick bag because of this ridiculous franchise tag that they agreed to.
Yeah, you and I have talked about this before with the collective bargaining agreement, how the NFL players, they got the worst agreement of the 3 leagues, the 3 major leagues, baseball, basketball, and football.
And even hockey has guaranteed contracts, Chris. They even have guaranteed contracts.
So I hear what you're saying, and if every running back got together, or even the best 50, and sat out the first game of the season, that would make a difference. There's no doubt about it. Or maybe they'd all have to do it, because maybe the third string running back for some team would go berserk and play well. But I don't think that's unfortunately going to happen. I mean, look, I think there's stronger things for them to fight for than this. If the players were going to stand up again, we talked about their lack of health care. We talked about their lack of guaranteed contracts. We've talked about the lack of black front office executives or head coaches. To me, those are bigger than this. And the fact that Rob, we talked about it all year. Deshaun Watson had the first fully, Kirk Cousins had one years ago, but Deshaun Watson set a new precedent. And none of the other quarterbacks stood on that. They didn't come together and stand on it and say, okay, at this point on, we're all getting fully guaranteed deals. The precedent has been set. So I don't think they're going to do that. I think Chubb he's in the middle of a 3-year, $36 million contract. He's in a different position. He could obviously sit out or something, but Saquon Barkley, who's on the franchise tag, Rob, if he sits out this year, it does him no good. All it would do is just save a year of wear and tear on his body. But that franchise tag would essentially roll over to the following year. And so it's not like he can sit out and then become a free agent. And Rob, it's not like he can even sit out. Like, say, I was thinking, okay, sit out the first 2 games or so, sit out the start of the season. And if the Giants struggle and go 0-2, we saw Emmitt Smith do it back in 1993, I believe it was. They're 0-2, 0-3, whatever it might be. And then they like, okay, we got to go ahead and give him this deal. They can't. They can't give him the new deal, like a long-term deal, because he's already been franchised and they missed that deadline, both sides. So all he would be doing by sitting out is basically losing $10 million. And again, we'll see how valuable it might be to not have a year of wear and tear. He could get hurt or whatever. So if I was Saquon, I just don't see the benefit of sitting out. Unless it's a group, all of the running backs did it, which I don't think they're going to do. I think, Rob, unfortunately, look, you and I have talked about how unfair the franchise tag is. What it is in general, we think it's unfair. But for running backs, it's horrible. Because a lot of them, their best years are within those first 5. And then, like Chubb did say, if you have a great year and you carry the ball 300 plus times, then they're going to think you're overworked and you're worn down. You're not going to be the same.
Josh Jacobs led the league and he in rushing, doesn't have a contract. Dalvin Cook, I don't know what he did. Right. I don't know what Dalvin Cook's done. He don't have a job. It don't even Chris.
No, they're like, the offers he's getting are way below.
No, they're waiting for somebody to get hurt in training camp. And then maybe they might offer him something. It's awful. It's awful.
I think look, and I don't know that they could even do this, but it's almost like the CBA should be different for running backs, where they could enter free agency after 3 years or something. Because 5, most people think the running backs begin to decline at 27. All but the absolute all-time greats. And some of them decline by 27. And so by the time they can really get the huge money, they've been used and abused, so to speak. But, Rob, I think the fact of the matter is this. The running back position has been devalued. And I don't just mean that teams are not looking at it as valuable, but it is just not one of the most critical positions anymore.
Totally disagree.
I'm looking at this in Yahoo. On Yahoo, they had a list of the highest paid positions. Running back was 10th. Quarterback, defensive lineman, wide receiver, edge rusher, offensive lineman, mainly left tackles, cornerbacks, linebackers, safeties, tight ends, running backs, then kickers, punters, and long snappers. And the fact is, Rob, when they started having running back by committee, and now instead of that Earl Campbell that carries it 25 times a game, or Eric Dickerson, or Barry Sanders, or Walter Payton, you got a couple of dudes that carry it 12 times each, 15 times max. And that lowered the value on the position. And then some of them, look at the Chiefs, Rob. They drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the first round. Ultimately, he lost the job to a 7th rounder, Isaiah Pacheco. They won the Super Bowl with Pacheco. So teams are looking at it like, I can get a running back. I can find a really, there are exceptions. Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, I think. There are an elite few. But you can get a good running back later in the draft. Kareem Hunt, Alvin Kamara, third-round picks. Look, there's always been positions like this, Rob. The center or the right guard. Guys that work their butts off, and every play they're hitting, and they haven't gotten paid a lot of money. And the way the game has changed, unfortunately, it's hit running backs like this.
The running game is so important in the NFL, and you could poo-poo it and act like you throw on every down, Chris. Big plays in games are determined every day, every game on running the ball and being able to keep the clock running and getting first downs. Running backs are big parts of football. If you can't run the football, most quarterbacks are going to be in trouble if you just can't pass and you become one-dimensional. I just think it's a loophole.
Yeah, but they think they can find
they're
the running
taking
back.
advantage of. Yeah,
you don't have to have the best running back game in the league.
I disagree.
Really?
I do.
Some of the best running backs in history. O.J. Simpson played one playoff game.
That's fine, but that doesn't mean
Barry
that
Sanders. You watched him in Detroit. How many playoff wins they had?
But that doesn't mean that other guys. Emmitt Smith was one of the best. He won 3 out of 4.
Right,
okay?
with a team.
No, but he had the most yards in the history of the NFL. Whether you think he's the best running back or not, he does. And he was also able to catch passes out of backfield, block, and he was able to run. They were very difficult to beat. Emmitt Smith was a big part of that.
30 years ago. It's a different game now.
I'm just saying I don't agree with the take that you
I
can
think
put anybody
the running game
in.
is somewhat,
I don't agree with that.
The running game is important, but for a couple of dudes, I can get a good running back. There's a lot of great running backs out there.